Hello and welcome to Resibuild's latest podcast, Construction Conversations. I'm Dominic Smith and today's topic is how can manufacturers help the residential construction sector become more competent? Pleased to say I'm joined by Luke Horton today, who's Managing Director of Sapphire Balconies. Sapphire are a manufacturer at the forefront of driving competency, and Luke is here to discuss some of the pain points along with sharing some exciting insights how Sapphire continue to innovate in this key area. Thank you for joining us today, Luke. How are we?
Thank you, Dom. Pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you. Now, let's start with background, how long the company has been operating and how you became involved in the residential construction sector, please.
Yeah, sure, Dom. Yeah. So the business has been established since 1992, so we're 31 years old this year, and still going strong. We've been fortunate along our journey to see that sustained growth of about 20% year on year. And our background really came from handrails and balustrading. So we were in that sector of the market, working in residential, commercial, schools, retail. And we had 4 of our own factories at the time along the journey, anything from aluminium to stainless steel to a joinery workshop that we had in-house as well. And as we went through our journey, we got pulled into doing some steel bolt-on balconies. And that was something we actually resisted at the time and said, look, we're architectural people, we don't get involved in structural steelwork. And anyway, reluctantly, we took on a couple of projects, and we realised how badly the industry actually did balconies, from the cast-in brackets being out of place with little tolerance in the kind of designs of bolt-on balconies, etc. And that got us thinking, and the innovation of glide-on balconies came out, and we secured our first project in 2013. We've since become a balcony business. We no longer do the handrails and staircase works. We are focused on modular balconies, and we've seen that growth year on year, as I say, and we've done 30,000 balconies now since 2013. So it's the track record goes to show the need the market had, really, how it's been embraced.
That's very impressive. You said about steel bolt-on balconies. What's the difference between the glide-on system and the bolt-on?
So I'd say, probably answering your question a bit indirectly, but when we came into the industry, the art anchors, the thermal anchors, were procured in the concrete frame package, and the balcony package was procured several months into the project. The concrete frame was up, the anchors were where the structural engineers set them out, and you had to work to that, often surveying the sites to make your balconies to fit. And often you found, if you didn't do the surveys and if you worked off drawings, that they didn't fit when they came to site. So you've normally got a bolt-on balcony. You have to leave your soffits off the underside of the balcony. The typical installation method is you put them in at first floor level, and then you set a podium up on that, and your guys are working underneath a live load as it's craned in, doing up the bolts. And then if there's a drainage system or cladding to be installed under the balcony, that's another activity that has to happen, working at height. So glide-on balconies really took into account a number of things. Firstly, we control the whole process in providing the anchors as well as the balcony, so we can ensure the setting out in the first place is done accurately with template. We've designed the balcony like a pallet and a forklift truck, so instead of being a rigid structure with brackets bolted on, it's a combination of steel beams that project from the building and a balcony with holes in there that slides over that. And those holes are bigger in all directions than the beam, so you get that tolerance that was really lacking, but massive speed advantages, no working under live loads, soffits can be finished, and I could go on, but we probably haven't got time for that.
It's very impressive. Working under a live load is never something that I personally would like to do, but having a modular design that is ready to go and slides on is absolutely brilliant. Some great innovation there. So from your perspective as a manufacturer, what are some of the key challenges facing the residential construction industry in terms of competency?
It's a good question, Dom. I think when I think of construction, I think what we're building is a bespoke product, and I'm not talking about balconies, I'm talking about the building itself is a bespoke product. And you'll have, some buildings will have precast concrete facades these days, some will have curtain walling, unitized, others will be mass timber buildings. You'll get precast concrete, you get in situ concrete, and all of those different scenarios mean that you see different combinations of trades on site and different details being derived depending on who you're working with. So for us, it would be who's the concrete frame company, if that's the way it's gone, who's the waterproofing company, who's the insulation company, and there's risk in all those areas of gaps appearing and things not being done right if they're not details that have been worked through on previous projects that are tested. So I'd say coordination is a big area. Another area is really just is actually just being honest about what your capabilities are and what you can do. And too often we see it, you come in and you see a scenario and maybe it's not right for your product, and having the honesty and integrity to say that's not for us, or I don't know if you don't know, so that you're managing everyone's expectations and not putting a product in that's not right for the situation. So really just talk the talk and walk the walk, just be honest and upright, and that will get the best outcome for our industry.
So coordination and collaboration is very key for moving forward. That's very reassuring. You mentioned mass timber structures. That's not very common over in the UK now, is it?
So we have worked on CLT projects in the UK, not in recent years. I did see an article that it's possibly coming back in some areas, but we also work in New Zealand and we work in North America as well. So it's quite common in those markets to see that. We have solutions that work with mass timber projects. So
perfect. That's wonderful. How do you see manufacturers playing a role in addressing these challenges and improving competency within the sector?
Well, I often hear the term we like a single point of contact on our projects, and who's our project manager going to be? That's the first thing that you've secured an order and you're making the introduction to your team. And I get that, but I also think it's a bit of a myth that there is someone that can do everything you need on a project themselves. And there can be very high expectations of Dave, the project manager, who he's expected not to understand what's being sold, to translate that into working drawings that can be manufactured from, to assessing the quality of the product that comes out, to training the installers that are going to fit that product, to building programs, to liaising with supply chain. And this approach to the jack of all trades is actually a real risk, because Dave will be different to Jim, our other project manager. So what my point is really is that rather than putting too much that's unreasonable actually on a single person having very high expectations, is break your process down and get specialist people doing each area and getting better and better at it. So reskilling it, putting in systems. So new people in the company that come along day one, they're introduced. Here's how we do these. Here's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're doing it the same way as the other experienced designers, and the outcomes are consistent.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So in your experience, what are some of the best practices that manufacturers can implement to help contractors, developers and designers become more competent?
Well, we do a lot of CPDs, lunch and learn type presentations, or breakthrough breakfasts as they're called these days. So we see a lot of that going on, and obviously there can be scope to educate in those sessions. We also do run thought leadership events. We attended a number of the Resibuild ones and been privileged to present there, or hold round tables to debate these, and that can all be helpful in moving the industry forward. And I would say when you're developing new products as well, another area that you can help is sometimes there is a necessity for a new invention that's not been done before, but working through rigorous testing on that. We build things, we break them, we push them to the limits, and you find out that way, where the boundaries are really of your product or the invention. And sometimes it goes through several iterations before you get the final one. And then we look also to get it under third-party professional engineers as well.
That's good. So you said about some of the Resibuild thought leadership programs that they run. Some people might just say that that's talk. Are there any results that have come from these at all?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Well, I wouldn't claim that Sapphire exactly are an expert in everything, and no one can be. And I think what Resibuild does is brings together experts and specialists from different fields, so you get this accumulation of knowledge at these events. I think it's really, really powerful, and definitely some of the we've seen, input from those that have been present in shaping the British standards and some of the, regulation standards that are being set for the industry coming out from people at these events. So it's really powerful to see.
Just talking about that, we have a book here called The External Envelope, which is a book put together by Resibuild, which has over 100 influencers in there and key members within the construction industry. So that's always worth reading. That is available on Amazon. So we'll move on to the next question now. We understand Sapphire's end-to-end traceability from the install all the way back. How does Sapphire do this, and does this improve competency, would you say?
Yeah, you've touched on a subject I'm very passionate about, Dom, and having seen what can happen with near misses sometimes, and the seriousness in which our customers will take that, can really drive home to you, especially when you're in a senior management position in a business, how responsible you are. And we've had this debate before with the company. We're working to ISO, have been for years. CE marking, likewise, you still work. You've got builder's profile. You've got all these boxes ticked, but sometimes that's not enough. That's the surface. That's the minimum standard as far as we're concerned. And we really want to fulfill our obligations to the end users using those balconies, and see every one of our 6,000 balconies that goes out a year safe and signed off. And we took this really to actual tangible exercise we did in the company to stress test our systems. And we engaged with a product liability lawyer and also a crisis PR management company. And we spoke to them and said, look, we want to stress test our systems. How do we do this? And we built this mock scenario, which would be terrible if it actually played out, but we took it to the limit to really see if our systems stood up. So we created it right from a BBC News article that was mocked up. This incident's happened. There's a balcony come off the building. There's persons that have been injured, and no further facts. And then as you play out the time, more facts come to light. It's this block. It's this, and it's yours. And that moment of horror hits you, and you figure out. Then with your team, you're sitting around and saying, right, it's 10th floor. It's this position. Find that balcony. Who was the contract manager that ran that job? Right, show us the designs. Who was the supply chain involved in this? Where did that product come from? What could have gone wrong here? And you drill right down to every balcony. Can you open up your quality system? Where's the photos? What's gone wrong? Was it all signed off? Who made that balcony? What day did they make it on? Was it a Friday when they were rushing off home, for the weekend? Was the shoddy workmanship? Likewise, steel beams, are all the critical welds in place? Who made those? And I'm pleased to say that we have implemented systems that allow us that level of drill down. You can lift the lid on Sapphire and say, show me the records for the company. And we'll do that for you. We've got a passport system, which quite literally is like a record of your travels. So every balcony's got its own unique serial number. So right from its mill certificates for the aluminium, through to the soffits being fitted, through to signed off and delivered to site. We can show you all those records photographed at different stages. And in terms of knowing that people that are qualified to sign off balconies are the only ones doing it, we take that further and put in a learning management system, LMS as it's called. And what that means is across the 9 factories we're running and the 100 or so people working in balconies every day, every one of those has been through watched the videos of how to build the balconies. They've had to complete competency questionnaires around that to ensure that learning has been reinforced, and only then are they allowed to work on our balconies. So that gives us that full traceability right down to someone on the shop floor, when they had the training, who they are, what balconies they've worked on in their lifetime, and it really does help. And then there's obviously the installation side as well. So you've got accredited installers fitting the products. We work very, very hard to make sure there's no gaps that can appear in the scope. And the installers again use our passport system, and we get those records through for every balcony.
Perfect. That must have been a very stressful time when you were acting out that scenario. That is the worst case scenario, and it's very reassuring that you have so many things in place to actually make sure that this cannot happen and everything is traceable. So.
Yeah, and I think when you do these kind of things, it's when you see the light bulbs go on with people.
Yeah.
That's why I do that in my day-to-day job. Yeah, that's why it's a safety measure. It's a safety net to make sure this doesn't fall through.
So, Sapphire supplies products to site. Are they fitted by installers who have a contract with this safe or more risk supply and install contract? Sorry, I'll repeat that. So Sapphire supplies products to site as they're fitted by installers who have a contract with this safe or more risk, or is there more risk to a supply and install contract?
Yeah, I think what you're asking, Dom, is around the model we got. So we are we focus, as I say, so that we're very good at what we do, and that's the design, overseeing the manufacture, delivering that product in pristine condition to the site, and then supporting the installation teams. So the installers themselves have their own contract direct with the main contractor. So how do we ensure that quality and consistency is there all the way through? Well, firstly, we run an accredited installer scheme, and to qualify to be on that accredited installer scheme, we'll firstly go through looking at the company. We'll look at their financials, they be around to finish the projects we put them forward on. Can we work with their directors and their team? With the best will in the world, sometimes things don't go to plan, and you need that relationship. And we would then send one of our site support team out onto site, another project they're working on, to all see the quality, how they're working the processes, what their safeties are, all those kind of things. Then we get in place a memorandum of understanding, so it's like a service level agreement between Sapphire and those installers, and we try and work with a fairly small but select group of accredited installers, and we also put training in for every one of their guys on the team. So there's different training certificates with dates of when that expires, as both a theory and practical testing. So we'll bring them into our facilities. We'll have a mobile crane for the day. We'll swing the balcony on and off several times. So when they hit site, they're already good to go. But yeah, we really do think that there is very little, if any, risk in the gaps appearing in that system.
Lovely. So the accredited installers, how often do they have to retake these certificates?
It depends what it is, to be honest. Diamond, some of them will have started their training on our Light-on Balcony system, and we continually evolve our product range. So there might be an invention by the time they come to do the next project. So that may require them coming back in for some training, but it may be on a different bit of equipment or new balcony concept.
So leading on from that, Dame Hackett emphasised the importance of competent labour and also knowing the limits of competency. How does Sapphire ensure that they know and stay within their limits?
So as I say, we are constantly innovating, and the construction industry is always evolving, using new methods, whether it be modular, precast concrete, and you develop new solutions to work with those things. So to make sure that they are we're within our limits and not overstretching ourselves, we do have our own test rig in-house, and that's in use every single day. And we're building new product, whether it be impact testing or using hydraulic rams to fatigue test the balcony or load it up to its limits. We will do that. And then, as I said again earlier, we lean on professional structural engineers to underwrite that as well. So we get another opinion on whether it's right for the project and whether there's anything else to be picked up. But I would say also, when you look at some of the certifications that you can obtain from third parties, which we do that as well, is that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You need to be aware of what your certification is for. It might have been tested in situation A, but actually situation B is on site. So that agility, the ability to test in-house helps to, not delay projects, but at the same time make sure you're within your boundaries.
Lovely. So with competency in mind, what steps does Sapphire Balconies take to help improve competency within the industry, would you say?
Well, thought leadership, we like to pick the difficult topics in the industry, and bring in people to help make sense and get clarity around those issues. Again, the CPD, the lunch and learn type presentations, but we have a good team up front as well. So if you're needing advice, just call them in, and we're happy to work with you and show you what we've got and connect you with other people that might be a missing part of the jigsaw as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So how do you see the role of manufacturers evolving in the future as residential construction sector continues to evolve and change?
I think, Dom, you've really got to keep up to date, haven't you, with this industry. It's always, there's new legislation coming out at the moment. We've seen that fire in mind. Sustainability and carbon reduction is another area the industry is moving forward in. Are we actually aware of what we're talking about? Some of these, have we got the evidence behind our claims to back that up with tangible physical evidence, so to speak? BS 8579 is an example where Sapphire's been involved in rewriting that British standard as one of the teams of industry subject matter experts as well. But does that answer your question, Dom?
It does. So as the standards and legislation are changing constantly, for example, there's now the legislation of the second stair stack.
Yeah.
How do you keep on top of all that change all the time? Because sometimes it's talked about change, but it's not implemented immediately.
Yeah. I mean, it's important, isn't it, to stay in touch with people that are at the forefront of our industry. And I think we have got a good network and we've got good connections. We've got people across our business. We also run various initiatives within the business. So we have a steering team, for example, working on ESG, and they are making sense of what that means for the business. And likewise, we've had experts working on fire, getting through testing with Warrington Fire and various other things like that. If you don't know, find out who that, bring them in, increase your own knowledge, work together.
Indeed. And as an example of increasing knowledge, doing some research into Sapphire, I see that you have one of your members of staff, Nick Horton, who has actually written a white paper for the government on fire safety.
Yeah. No, again, we say we don't claim to be the experts, but we do try to be helpful and get advice and input and carry out testing, and then we're happy to share our findings with others because we believe it can just make the industry a better place if there's more knowledge out there that people can work with.
That's perfect. So finally, are there any particular resources you would recommend for contractors, developers and designers who want to improve their competency at all?
Repeating myself a little bit here, but I'd just say get involved with Resibuild. That's one area. Engage with subcontractors across the industry that offer CPDs. Maybe talk to some of the other projects out there, find the contractors they've proved are capable and competent in their trades, and engage those guys in, maybe rather than taking a punt on something that's unproven. And we run factory tours, open day sessions. We're more than happy to entertain anyone that wants to come along and learn more about balconies. You're welcome.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. So perhaps we can add to the list there that Resibuild published the external envelope, as I said. It's a great book which has over 100 influencers and thought leaders within the industry. It's very, very much worth the read, and that can be found on our website at www.resi.build. So that's resi.build. Also on that website, you'll be able to see about booking CPDs, breakthrough breakfast, our events that are coming up. Everything is on there. So unfortunately, that brings us to the end of today's episode, the Resibuild podcast, Construction Conversations. We hope you found the discussion with Luke Horton, the Managing Director of Sapphire Balconies, informative and thought-provoking. Thank you very much indeed for your time and for joining us today. It's been very good. Competency remains a major need across all markets, and we provide content and events into this. And we're excited to announce that our next event that Resibuild are running is next week on Wednesday, the 15th of March. We have a panel of experts talking about competency within the residential construction sector. So don't miss this opportunity to learn. It is live streamed, and joining us on the panel will be Kizzy Augustin from Miscon Diera. We have Daniel Joyer from Effectis, David Jones from the ICM. We have Peter McAteer from Sysmax, and our very own Nick Horton from Balconies. So if you'd like to join us on that, please do log on and show your interest, and we will contact you with a link to watch the live stream. But that's all we have time for today. So once again, thank you very much indeed for joining us today, Luke. It's been a great conversation.
Great.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.